JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. September 16th, 2024. Going to be really quick here. Talk about some of the names I'm looking at. Talk about the markets. We have the Fed. Welcome to Fed Week. And go from there. But take a look at the S&P, the SPY, up 4% last week. And that was on the heels of the previous week, which we were down a little over 4%. So the rockiness continues ever since that big move we had at the end of July into August. And now we finally, after months and months of all this chatter about when is going to be the first rate cut for the Fed, how big is it going to be? Some of that chatter will finally start to get an answer when we get the Fed meeting Wednesday. So 2 o'clock will be the Fed statement. Probably going to be right now. Friday was a 50% probability. The market was pricing in for a 0.25%, 0.5% rate hike. Now, today it shows a 63% probability. So I actually prefer the quarter rate hike. It leaves open the Fed to have more ammo to do things if some craziness goes on. But certainly going to be rocky, regardless of even if it's an inline rate. If it's 0.25, it's 0.5%. It's going to be choppy after the statement, and it's going to be choppy during his meeting. But if it's 0.25%, I think markets go to new highs into October. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Take a look at the SPY 563 looks like a decent resistance. Hit up against that again on Friday, hit that a couple times back at the end of August. And then on the flip side, at 555, I keep talking about that. Also of note, so Apple now had their event for the iPhone 16, or what have you, and the pre-orders went on sale, and it looks like pointing to a weaker than expected pre-orders so far. So futures, well, not futures, but Apple's down a little bit here in the pre-market. It's like seems like every time they come out with a new iteration, they always say, especially recently, the last couple of years, that it's weaker than expected demand, and then next thing you know, months later, Apple's at new highs. But we'll have to see. All right, so that's the SPY. Also, take a look at the small caps. A monster session on Friday, up almost 2.5%. IWM back over 215. I wouldn't say it's the Goldilocks scenario here, but if the markets can hold their ground and the small caps can start to rally, it could provide the next leg to markets. So I want to see that 215 area hold. Futures were mixed this morning, and still Nasdaq and S&P are down just a little bit, but the small cap futures are up. I think they're up 0.6%. I didn't even pull up the last read here. Well, actually, it came off a little bit. They're only up 0.25% now. Hopefully, hopefully leave some room here so that we can at least IWM holds 215. All right, so now individual names. Oh, also, last but not least of note, the Bank of England also has their central bank meeting. They were the first of the major economies to cut rates last month, and it looks like they're going to possibly cut rates again, 0.25%. That'll be on Thursday. So those are kind of the events this week. Obviously, the Fed is front and center. But yeah, so that's that. All right, so individual names. I mean, Redfin. I talked about Redfin going to possibly hitting $15 as a target. I didn't think it would have a chance to do it within a couple days. So Redfin was up 55% last week. It closed up 25% on Friday. I talk about the backdrop for Redfin, that the profitability at the end of this year, at the start of next year, the rate cut cycle beginning. So that's just going to bode well. This pent up supply demand situation with housing, all that does is bring more traffic to the Redfin site, to their agents, all the things that they do. It just bodes well, right? So uh, I used the comparison. I don't know if I did on one of my rants a couple last week or the week before, but Lending Tree was a name. It was traded down. I think it traded down to $12. I used to trade that when it was $300, $400. Then you had rising rates, concerns around the economy a little bit, and so when it's easy money policy, rates are low. People borrow money and all that fun stuff. But as they start to raise rates, it didn't bode well for some of these names. Lending Tree just got destroyed. And then finally, as it looks like the market's starting to price in lower rates going forward, and Lending Tree finally just took off. And I think $12. Have to go check because I keep saying it, I forget the exact number. And it traded all the way up to $50. I'm not saying deja vu here with Redfin, but I think it's in a similar situation where they're in a position where I think the stock is way undervalued. They have a lot of different levers that they can pull. It's not similar to Zillow, where like I've said this for many years too, that the housing sector as a whole needs to be disrupted. And Redfin's one of those names I think that can continue to do that. And there's others, Open Doors, another name, but for some reason I don't like that. There's a lot of risk implied with that, and I think they do some buying and selling. Anyway, so that's Redfin. So you take a look at the short-term chart, just a monster move last week, and then you'll start looking at the long-term chart. July 2023, the stock was 1760 or so was the high it hit back in July. So that'll probably be the next spot if it breaks 15. And I'll continue to look for opportunities to add more strikes. Of course, in hindsight, I wish I held all the Septembers, all the Novembers, but I went and got the Januaries. I locked some of those in to cover some costs on Friday, and I also got some October strikes. So gets over 15, I think it can continue to go. Especially, I think it was a name that most people weren't really looking at until just recently. So that's Redfin. Roku, I would say lucky, but second time lightning strike, there was an upgrade. The stock went bonkers, and the calls, which I had pretty much, I wouldn't say wrote them off, but my calls were up nicely once again. I closed them out just because Roku's had some similar instances where it sells off on morning gaps. I didn't want to lose my profits. And then I was looking for more strikes to play for moving to 80. It's over its 200-day moving average, the first time that's happened since February. If it finds some footing here today, I might look to get some strikes to play for a move over 80, but really like the Roku story. Excuse me. Turns so disappointing after announcing their, the positive data this time last Monday, and then the offering after hours for 10, I think it was 1049. Stock did great the next session and then just gave it all back. And at one point, it was $2 lower than the offering price. I just don't see how it's not going to trade back up near 1049, pending any craziness. I mean, it is a name that has a high short interest. So when that happens, I talk about all these biotech names, they're phase one studies. It takes so long for them to get to market that it becomes easy for these shorts to come in and just I hate to say manipulate, but short and sell the stock and pressure it. And then when that happens, the stock just not a good thing here. What is this here? Sorry, folks. The new Zillow's up this morning, up a little over $2 on analyst upgrade. So Wedbush. It says sorry, Zillow Group surges as analyst says start buying as mortgage rates fall. Like brain surgery. Sorry, all right, off on a little tangent there. So that's Turn. VKTX, my September strikes expire this week, so pending any kind of buyout, I'm going to look to get some October strikes. Also, VKTX was up 23% last week. I don't know if some of that is just Spotlight getting back into the GLP-1 space with the Turn data, but just a name that's mind-boggling. I forget who asked over the weekend around the short interest. Again, similar to Turn, it's a staggering. It's got to be over $1.1 billion. I have to go check. I think the updated short interest dropped just a little bit, but still over $1 billion of shares are held short on VKTX. And it's a name if one of the big biotech names wants to do an acquisition in the GLP-1 space, VKTX is best in class and all that stuff. So to me, it'd be front and center. And then last but not least is Gilead. And, I traded it back when it had the HIV drug, made some money there. And then I had some September strikes. It's been on a nice run, slow but steady, but it looks like my calls are not going to come in for pay dirt, unfortunately. Looked like it was going to happen last week when I guess they announced pricing on the HIV drug, or there was some kind of news or catalyst. But don't be surprised if I add some more Gilead calls at some point into October. I'm trying to think of some of the other things going on here. ENVX, I don't even know if I talked about ENVX. So I still have those October puts. I guess the CEO came on and did a fireside chat, and on the fireside chat, he canceled his 10b5-1 plan. That's where he announced it. Crazy stuff. I mean, hey, good for shareholders, right? If you're long the stock, say, wow, great. The CEO's not selling, but meanwhile, the stock was at $18, and now it's cut in half, and now you're canceling your 10b5-1 plan, and was to buy a house. And if you know any kind of similar situations that happen, Value Act gave Trevor Milton hundreds of millions of dollars to buy the biggest mansion in Colorado. So I get using the company's stock. Bad parallels. I'm not saying that's a similar thing. When I look at EMVX, I don't think it's the F word. I just think it's never gonna. It's a company that's not gonna exist or not be able to do what they say they're gonna do. That's it. So I'm not going to add any more strikes on EMVX just yet, but I still think down to 690 despite the last couple days of rally. Some of that I think had to do with, I guess, his fireside chat, and the other had to do with the big move up in small caps into the end of the week. And I think that's it, folks. I'll be back on audio later. Let's see if I can. Why is this not going? Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.